Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Studio. My name is Adam, and it's time for yet another Technique Talk.
Eriko, Central Park Info.
Thank you so much to my studio VIPs, Carl Spence, Luke Uyamura, I really appreciate it. And our featured studio artist for today is Dylan Butler. Thank you for your support, Dylan. If you'd like to support the show and become a studio artist or studio VIP, you can go to patreon.com/AdamTan, or you can click over here. I know for a lot of you guys, summer is coming up and summer's a really good opportunity to learn new pieces, but also you guys will be going to university or college, or you might have a recital later on this year. So I decided to put together a list of my top 10 favorite marimba solos. Now these marimba solos range from like intermediate level to very advanced, and of course with the nature of percussion you can really go either way. Like some people like playing the harder stuff, some people like playing the slightly easier stuff, and there are different interpretations of each. So different people will go for different levels of repertoire, but I've listed them all in the same list so you can decide for yourselves. And of course I'd love to hear what your favorite marimba pieces are, so drop them down in the comment section below. I would love to hear your suggestions because I'm also learning new marimba repertoire every day. I'm trying to learn new music for my trip to Malaysia in June, so that's pretty exciting. But anyway, so at number 10 we have a piece that is really popular right now. I'm sure a lot of you guys know Land by Takatsugu Muromatsu. That's not the piece that I'm referring to. This piece is basically its cousin or its sister or something because it sounds very similar to Land. It's called Wind by Cheng Lin. Now the reason why I draw parallels to Land, which is a piece that I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with, Wind is basically a nice melancholic Asian style marimba solo that is just really reminiscent of a lot of Korean dramas that I used to watch back when I was in high school. Some people might even call the melody generic, but I think it brings out the marimbist's ability to interpret very well, and as a result the way you interpret Wind is going to determine whether or not it's a good or bad performance. I really like Land, but Wind is definitely the more upgraded version. It's a little bit more involved, it's got more double vertical strokes, it's a little bit quicker, requires a bit more accuracy, but it also still has that room to breathe so you can have your own custom interpretation, which I think is really good. It's also really, really pretty, so you might make some people cry in the audience. Definitely a piece you can use for pretty much any situation. At number 9, we have a piece that I was obsessed about in my 3rd year of university. It's called ODESSA by Matthew Lorick. I was really tempted to play it, but unfortunately my marimba chops weren't up to standard at the time. It was really embarrassing.
You know that feeling. I know you know that feeling. I feel that feeling all the time.
But basically Miroslav Dimov premiered this work by Matthew Lorick, and a lot of my friends were playing it at the time. It's a really involved 4-mallet solo, uses a lot of lateral strokes, like you have to be really good at lateral strokes to play this well. Very cool piece, sounds great, really shows off a lot of skill. Big ups to Matthew Lorick for writing a piece like that in this day and age. And yeah, I really recommend it for anyone looking for a piece that's a little bit trickier than intermediate level. At number 8, we have one of the easier pieces on this list, which is Michael Burritt's October Night. Some people joke that Michael Burritt always writes a lot of tunes where he basically gets the 4 mallets and he goes do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do. October Night is one of the older Michael Burritt pieces. If you buy the score, you'll see that it's handwritten, and I really like it because it is basically just a lateral stroke exercise, but it sounds really effective for something that is just really quick and short and simple. It has a few advantages. Firstly, it can be played on a 4 1/3 octave marimba, so it literally goes right down to the bottom of a 4 1/3 octave marimba, but it sounds better on a 5 octave marimba. If you can play it on a 5 octave, play it on a 5 octave. Secondly, it has 2 movements. The first movement is a roll drone sort of movement, your typical melancholic roll movement, and the second movement is the chop heavy lateral burning movement. It is really intense. Even for people who are really good at marimba, they'll get a kick out of playing this. One thing I also like about October Night is that they notate the one-handed rolls. So again, this piece is perfect for working on your double lateral strokes, your one-handed rolls. So if you're in high school or if you're in university and you're looking for something that is just to like build your chops up, October Night's the one. At number 7, we have one of my favorite marimba concertos of all time. It is Emmanuel Séjourné's Concerto for Marimba and String Orchestra. This concerto has been played countless times across the world in competitions, recitals, everything basically. There's a recording by Samuel Cheng, which is at the New England Conservatory. If you want to check that out, that's in the description below. It's a really good video. The orchestra is on point and his playing is even more on point. I really like Séjourné's concerto because it reminds me of romantic piano concertos in the sense that it sounds very grandeur, very pretty, but at the same time it requires serious skill. It's a great showpiece and people have played it from high school level all the way to university level, differing interpretations everywhere. So it's a really great concerto to learn if you're looking for something to play with orchestra. I really hope I get to play it someday. At number 6, we have a piece that I've recently rekindled my appreciation for. It's Robert Oetomo's arrangement of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So Rob Oetomo is from Australia. He's yet another Rob that I know. He's from Sydney. He's a really cool guy. He's a beast of a marimba player and he also writes a lot of great music. And this of course is an arrangement of Harold Arlen's original Somewhere Over the Rainbow tune from The Wizard of Oz. And it's a really, really pretty arrangement. It's a piece that transcends boundaries. Like you can play it at the advanced level, you can also play it at the intermediate level, and there are going to be differing interpretations once again. You know, I take the piss out of the whole variations on a theme of thing all the time on my channel, but at the end of the day, when it's done well like this, I really like it. So yeah, shout out to my man Rob if you're watching. Thank you for arranging this beautiful piece. At number 5, it wouldn't be a marimba rep list if there wasn't any Bach, so it's Bach's Violin Partita number 2 in D minor. So I played this in 2015. It was my first taste of serious Bach because before that I dabbled a little bit in Cello Suite number 1, but I didn't really get into it. But I think Bach Violin Partita number 2 was the first Bach that I really wanted to put some interpretation into, and it's got 4 movements which you can actually play. Now I know a fair few people aren't big fans of playing Bach on the marimba because they say, oh, it's Baroque, it shouldn't be on a modern instrument. Bach is boring, the notes are just all the same. Well, it's not. Like, Bach is one of the most beautiful things you can play on marimba because it is just so open to interpretation. And another great thing about Bach is, of course, the music is free. You can get it off IMSLP thanks to Public Domain. Thank you, Public Domain. And the movements work really well in marimba. For example, the jig is a really nice 2 mallet chop burner. The saraband is a really good opportunity to be really expressive. And the allemande is definitely for people who want something a little bit more steady. So if you've never played Bach on marimba, go download some Bach off IMSLP, get it on your marimba this summer, and get Baching! At number 4, we have one of my favorite marimba solos of all time. You just heard it in the last episode of the studio. It is Pius Cheung's Etude in E minor. The Etude in E minor is one of Pius's earlier works. It is very simple, it's very inspired by, Rachmaninoff and Chopin. It really reminds me of a Chopin nocturne in its style, but it's on marimba. And I'm surprised at just how well it works on a 5-octave marimba. This etude is really good for building your physical range on the 5-octave marimba, so you'll have to do quite a lot of leaps. The last section of the etude is pretty crazy. You're literally going from the top of the marimba and the bottom of the marimba over and over again, and it's really, really wide, so it really develops your feel on the marimba. It's good for training what I like to call blind playing. Like when I play piano, I can play it by feel, I don't have to look at the keys, and I'm trying to develop that on the marimba, like getting to the point where I can feel where the bars are. Another upside to Pius's piece is, of course, it's very short. It's basically ABA, it's not very long at all. The themes recur many, many times, so it's something you can learn in a shorter period of time. But of course, you'll always be perfecting it until it sounds really, 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 really good, and then you'll just have an excellent showpiece for a recital or an audition or whatever. It's one of my favorites. At number 3, we have yet another transcription, and it's a surprising one because I've never seen it before on YouTube. I only saw this about 3 days ago. It was played by Eriko Daimo in Rob Knopper's video. If you haven't already checked out Rob Knopper's video, it's over here, or you can check it out in the description below. But basically, I know that Eriko and Pius as well transcribe a lot of piano music onto marimba, and this is one of them. It's Sibelius's The Spruce. So Sibelius, of course, is a Finnish composer, not the notation software, and he wrote The Spruce in a collection of 5 piano pieces. I think it's Opus 75, and The Spruce is the last piano piece, it's the 5th one. They're all named after trees, so it's this feeling of, being in the countryside and having fields of trees around you. I think they're really gorgeous piano pieces. And The Spruce is unique in the sense that you can transcribe it directly to marimba with very little change. You have to omit a few notes here and there. And I watched Eriko's rendition a few times, and she also omits a few notes in the chords here and there because, on marimba you can't play 7 notes at once. And it sounds really effective on marimba. What I like about transcribing romantic music to marimba is that a lot of romantic music has multi-voicing, and the top lines of the voice always have to be expressed higher than all the little accompanying ripples and all that sort of stuff. So if you want to get good at voicing on the marimba, playing a lot of romantic piano music will help with that. I remember when I used to play Arabesque by Debussy, and it was really, really hard to get that voicing on a mallet instrument compared to a piano because, on a piano you got that finger control, but on a mallet instrument it's quite tricky. No one has uploaded a recording of The Spruce on YouTube yet. I'm hoping to be the first, but it's a really good example of what romantic music can sound on the marimba, and it's free once again, it's on IMSLP, so yeah, worth checking out if you're looking for something to play in your recital. At number 2, it's one of the hardest 5-octave marimba solos in the world. It is on my bucket list of repertoire, and it is in every single repertoire list in every conservatory around the world. It's Joseph Schwantner's Velocities. A lot of people class marimba solos into modo perpetuo and non-modo perpetuo. So modo perpetuo is like music that is continuous, it just never ever stops. A lot of stuff like Keiko Abe's solos are modo perpetuo. And non-modo perpetuo stuff is stuff that usually has breaks in between. Like Wind on this list is non-modo perpetuo, and a lot of the romantic piano stuff, that's not modo perpetuo. Well, Velocities is like extreme modo perpetuo. It is basically non-stop action from the beginning to the end. It is one of the most tiring pieces to play. I know it involves a lot of stamina. I've seen countless recordings of people playing it. I think one of my favorite recordings is from a guy called Doug Perry. I think he watches my videos. If you're watching, Doug, thank you so much for uploading such an awesome performance of Velocities. I think if you can play Velocities well, you're definitely a beast of a marimba player, a certified marimbist. And I think if you're looking for something that is going to take you at least a year to learn and is going to be really challenging and push you to the limits, I think Velocities is the go. And at number 1, it's a piece that I have played before, and it's one of my favorite pieces that I always keep coming back to revisit over and over and over again. It is, of course, Andrew Thomas's Merlin. as you guys know, I finished my recital with the second movement of Merlin, which is one of my favorite marimba masterworks to date. It was written in 1985, commissioned by William Moesch, and back then marimba solos on 5-octave marimbas were quite rare. The whole culture of concert marimbas was still developing at the time, and Andrew Thomas wasn't even a marimbist. He wasn't a percussionist or anything like that. He was a guy who wrote like film scores and orchestral works, and here he is writing a marimba solo, a 5-octave marimba solo called Merlin. It tends to be the case when you get any pieces that are written by a percussionist. They're written in a way that is playable. Merlin is one of those pieces that is right on the edge of being unplayable. Like, because it's written by a non-marimbist, it is written to the point where they've just pushed the limits of what a marimbist can do. When you get to certain points in Merlin, like the famous wide double vertical octave ending, you start to think to yourself, is this piece really legit? Are they really asking me to play such extreme intervals at this speed? It's such a good piece. What I also really like about Merlin is that it's not just a piece that sounds really crass and just has a whole bunch of notes in it. It's actually very melodic. It has a lot of different sonorities. It has a lot of different feels. It goes from like really small to really big. And it's for that reason why it gets the #1 spot on this list. It's the reason why I'm giving it the studio seal of approval. One of the staples of marimba repertoire will be my favorite for many years to come. Thank you, Andrew Thomas, for giving us this gift of Merlin. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what marimba pieces you guys like playing, or what you're going to be playing this summer, or what you're going to be playing for your recital. I really like to hear from you guys because I want some suggestions myself. I'm sure a lot of you guys will want suggestions from other people. So yeah, leave them in the comments below. And of course, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more top 10 videos, please let me know, because this is something that I'm just trying. I'm always trying to make new things on this channel. I don't want to make it too stale. Like, imagine if I just made mallet reviews every single week. That would be pretty stale and boring. So I want this channel to be dynamic and exciting, and of course, it's always for you guys. And of course, please hit that red subscribe button below to keep up with my uploads. I upload every week, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. We are almost on 2,500 subscribers, which is insane. Thank you so much for all your support. And I'll see you guys next week for another episode of The Studio. Good night.